Walk into your great-grandmother's garden, and to your eyes, it would look like a mess. Flowers tangled up in the beans, herbs gone to seed, weeds she flat out refused to pull. It looks like she just let things grow wherever they wanted. She did not. Every single plant in that yard was put there on purpose, and every one of them had a job to do. You probably think those old gardens were just pretty, or just a little extra food. A patch of tomatoes, some roses along the fence, and that was the end of it. That is not what you are looking at. You are looking at a pharmacy, a hardware store, a grocery, and a bug spray factory, all of it growing out of one patch of dirt. 21 plants, and not a single one of them was decoration. By the time we are done, you are going to be able to walk through that garden and read it like a map. And you are going to understand exactly what got taken from you the day we paved it over and started driving to the store instead. And the whole thing started down in the dirt. Because the secret to the old garden was that it fed itself. She never bought a bag of fertilizer in her life because certain plants made the food for all the others. The first one was comfrey. It sends roots down deep into the subsoil and mines up minerals that shallow vegetables can never reach. And you chop those big leaves into a bucket of water and let them rot into a black tea that is pure plant food. One warning on that one. She knew it cold. You put comfrey on your soil, never in your body. The plant is rough on the liver. Then the beans and the peas, which do something close to magic. They pull nitrogen right out of the thin air and feed it into the ground, so they leave the dirt richer than they found it. That is the old trick behind the three sisters. Feeding the soil was the easy part though, keeping the bugs off everything she grew, without one single can of poison. Now that took a whole standing army. And she grew that army too. Marigolds went in among the vegetables because their roots quietly killed the microscopic worms in the soil that chew through tomato roots. Nasturtiums were the decoys. Aphids love them so much they swarm the nasturtium and leave your good vegetables alone. And then you pull the covered plant, and that is that. There was a daisy in that garden too, a flower called pyrethrum. And she would dry the heads and crush them into the very first bug powder anyone ever had. That is a real insecticide, the same one they still bottle today. Tansy grew by the door to turn back the flies and the ants, and garlic and onions were tucked in everywhere because their smell confuses the pests that hunt by scent. Not one drop of anything bought. Now walk a few feet over to the part of the garden that was the family doctor. Because the medicine grew in the flower bed, calendula, that cheerful orange flower, got steeped in oil and turned into the salve for every cut and scrape and chapped hand. Yarrow was the one that stopped bleeding. Soldiers packed it into their wounds on the battlefield for 3,000 years, which is how it got the old name, soldier's woundwort. Elderberry became the dark syrup that got the family through a winter of coughs, and she knew the rule that keeps it safe. You always cook the berry. Raw, it will turn your stomach. Even that flat weed in the lawn, plantain, was a tool. You chew up a leaf and press it onto a bee sting or a nettle burn, and the fire goes right out of it. Lavender did double duty, calming you down and keeping the moths out of the linen at the same time. And horehound, a bitter little mint, got boiled down into the original cough drop, back before a cough drop came in a bag. Then there was the part of the garden built to carry the family clear through to spring. The sunflower was the plant that wasted nothing. Seeds for you and for the chickens, oil pressed from those seeds, and the dried stalk burned for fuel when the wood ran low. Winter squash and pumpkins were the keepers, hard rinds full of calories that store for months in a cool cellar without any canning at all. Potatoes were the cellar king, the cheap, reliable belly filler that rebuilt poor households, and she taught the one rule there too: never eat the green ones, and never the leaves. and nothing rotted before its time, because she grew the things that fought the rot. When she put up pickles, a single grape leaf went into every jar with the dill, and the tannin in that leaf keeps the cucumber crisp instead of going to mush. That is not an old wives' tale. That is real chemistry. The sage, the thyme, and the rosemary on the windowsill were not only for flavor. Those oils actually slow the spoiling of meat and fat, which is the real reason they got rubbed into everything that had to last. Now here is the part nobody expects. That garden was also the hardware store and the dry goods shop. Flax gave her two things from one plant: linen thread spun from the stalk and oil pressed from the seed. Soapwort is exactly what it sounds like. You boil the roots, and it lathers up into a gentle soap that grows in the ground, and museums still use it today to wash old tapestries too delicate for anything else. She grew her colors too, woad for blue and madder for red, before a single factory existed to sell dye in a bottle, and the broom in the corner of the kitchen. She grew that from a tall grass called broomcorn, bound by hand, 21 plants, a farm, a clinic, a pantry, and a workshop, all of it standing quietly in one backyard. So here is the question that ought to bother you a little. If one garden could feed you, doctor you, clothe you, clean you, and color your cloth, then why does almost nobody grow one anymore? That did not just happen on its own. That garden was taken apart on purpose, one job at a time, and it helps to know who took which piece. If you are the kind of person who would rather grow a thing than buy it, keep that in mind, because this is the channel that digs these back up. The grocery store took the food, the drugstore took the medicine, and the seed company took almost everything that was left. Look at what happened to the seeds alone. By one well-known count, of all the vegetable varieties sitting in the seed catalogs back in 1903, the great majority had vanished by 1983. Garden beans alone fell from 185 different kinds down to 32. Now, to be honest with you, scholars still argue about that number, whether it is true loss or just old names traded for new ones, and you should know that. But nobody argues about the law. In 1970, they made a plant variety into something a company could own, like a machine or a song. And inside of about 15 years, farmers who had saved their own seed every fall for 1,000 years were buying it brand new every single spring. Instead, the modern hybrid seed will not even grow true if you try to save it, so you have no choice. You have to go back and buy it again. That is the whole trick, and it is the whole story of how it was lost. The garden that did everything became a lawn that does nothing. Her medicine grew in the flower bed. Her soap grew by the fence. Next winter's vitamins sat fermenting in a crock in the cellar. And every one of those jobs is now a different aisle, a different bill, and a different company that thanks you for your business. You do not have to plant all 21 to get it back. You just have to plant one. Put in comfrey, and you stop buying fertilizer. Put in calendula, and you grow your own salve. Plant the beans, and the dirt gets richer for free. Every single plant you put back in the ground is one more job the store does not do for you anymore, and one more dollar that stays in your pocket. That is all self-sufficiency ever really was. Taking the jobs back one plant at a time. If you have still got a strip of dirt and the stubbornness to use it, you already understand this better than the people who paved theirs over for a lawn. Next time we are going down into the root cellar to the old trick that kept a family's potatoes good for 2 full years with no fridge and no power at all, because your great-grandmother was never as poor as we think she was. She was rich in a way we have simply forgotten how to count, and all of it was growing right there in the yard.